Welcome back. In today's book, we're going to meet a young woman with a grand passion for trees. She has guts, she has vision, and a green leafy vision that will one day transform a city. And this book is based on a true story. The Tree Lady, written by Joseph Hopkins, with illustrations by Jill McElmurray. Joseph Hopkins came to book writing late in life after decades of writing reports describing communicative disorders of children and adults. He discovered email storytelling in the mid-1990s, and The Tree Lady was his first book. Jill was born in Los Angeles into a family of artists and musicians and studied art at the School of Visual Arts in New York. When she wasn't working on books, she was painting the New Mexico and North Minnesota landscape and enjoying life with her partner Eric and their dog Harry. The true story of how one tree-loving woman changed a city forever. Catherine Olivia Sessions grew up in the woods of Northern California. She gathered leaves from oaks and elms. She collected needles from pines and redwoods, and she braided them together with flowers to make necklaces and bracelets. It was over 100 years ago in the 1860s, and girls from Kate's side of town weren't supposed to get their hands dirty. But Kate did. Kate listened well in school. She learned how to write and count. She remembered the poems and stories she read. Best of all, she liked studying wind and rain, muscles and bones, plants and trees, especially trees. Most girls were discouraged from studying science, but not Kate. Kate felt the trees were her friends. She loved the way they reached toward the sky and how their branches stretched wide to catch the light. Trees seemed to Kate like giant umbrellas that sheltered her and the animals, birds, and plants that live in the forest. Not everyone feels at home in the woods, but Kate did. When Kate grew up, she left home to study science at college. She looked at soil and insects through a microscope. She learned how plants made food and how they drank water, and she studied trees from around the world. No woman had ever graduated from the University of California with a degree in science, but in 1881, Kate did. After graduation, Kate took a job in Southern California. When her boat docked in San Diego, she saw that her new home was a desert town. Kate never thought she would live in a place with very few trees. But now, she did. Kate began her job as a teacher. She was also the vice principal of the school, so she had to make sure that everyone followed the rules. Kate missed studying science and was not sure if she would stay on the job. But for 2 years, she did. From her school, Kate could see City Park in the hills above town. It was called a park, but it didn't look like one. It was where people grazed cattle and dumped garbage. Most people in San Diego didn't think trees could ever grow there, but Kate did. With Kate's love for the woods, she thought San Diego needed trees more than anything else, so she left teaching to become a gardener. She knew she must plant trees that could live in dry soil with lots and lots of sunshine. Her friends worried Kate wouldn't find trees like that, but she did. Kate became a tree hunter. She wrote letters to gardeners all over the world and asked them to send her seeds that could grow in a desert. She also traveled south into Mexico to look for trees that liked hot, dry weather and steep hills and canyons. Not everyone knows how to hunt for trees, but Kate did. Soon, Kate's trees were planted along streets, around schools, and in small parks and places all over town. People bought trees from Kate's nursery and planted them in their yards. From elms and oaks to eucalyptuses and palms, by the turn of the century, young trees from Kate's nursery were growing in every part of San Diego. Most people didn't think a desert town could sustain so many trees. But Kate did. Then, in 1909, the city leaders announced that a great fair called the Panama, California Exposition was coming to San Diego in 1915. The fair would be held in City Park, which was now called Balboa Park. Kate felt Balboa Park still needed more trees, thousands more, to look beautiful and to shade the visitors that came to the fair. That was too many trees for Kate to plant by herself, but she knew lots of people could do it together. She asked her friends to bring their friends and come to the park for tree planting parties. Again and again, people volunteered to help. Those volunteers weren't sure if they could plant enough trees, but before long, they did. And when the fair opened, San Diego was ready. Millions of trees and plants filled Balboa Park. The fair had so many visitors, it stayed open for 2 years instead of 1. People came near and far to see the attractions and stroll in the cool shade. The fairgoers couldn't believe San Diego had such magnificent gardens. But thanks to Kate, it did. In the years after the fair, Kate was given many awards for her work, and people took to calling her the Mother of Balboa Park. She continued gardening and planting in trees until her death in 1940. Back then, few could have imagined that San Diego would become the lush, leafy city it is today. But all along, year after year, Catherine Olivia Sessions did. The end. Today, Kate is most remembered for her work in Balboa Park, but she wasn't just interested in big projects like the Panama, California Exposition. For more than 40 years, she wrote newspaper and magazine articles that introduced plants and explained how to care for them. In 1939, just a year before she died, the 82-year-old Kate attended a festive luncheon, a busy doodle, as she called such affairs, where she was the first woman to receive the Meyer Medal, an award given for exemplary service to horticultural science. God loves each one of us, and Kate demonstrated how God calls each of us to use the gifts and talents He has given us. She faced many obstacles, remember, even to get the education she needed and wanted. Kate's work in Balboa Park also shows us how working with other people in community can accomplish more than we could ever do all by ourselves. Remember, yes, God does love each of us individually, but He also loves us in community when we act together to show His love to the world. See you next week.